Well. Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 236 has just revealed what we all felt was inevitable. Gojo, the strongest sorcerer of all time, has been defeated. And Sukuna has gone from the king of frauds to the king of Jujutsu Kaisen. He literally has the entire series in his pocket right now. And there is only one person I see stopping him. And I'll explain who that is a little later in this video. But I just want to put something out there. You guys should never doubt what I have to say ever again. I made video after video explaining why Sukuna is not a fraud. And the fact that he hasn't fought at anywhere near full power yet. And guess who was right? I had hundreds of comments just straight flaming my ass. But nonetheless, I stood by my word, and all of you called me an idiot, but look who's the idiot now. Gojo himself literally said in this chapter that Sukuna would have won without even using the 10 shadows technique. Again, I said this so many times, but just nobody believed me. But it feels so good knowing I was right this entire time. Anyways, that's my rant over for now, and I'll discuss a little bit more later, but I'm sure all of you want to see what actually happened during this chapter, so let me get into that. So this chapter jumps straight into what seems like a flashback, but we'll find out later what this actually was. But if you know manga, then you know that if a chapter jumps straight into a flashback, you need to prepare to say goodbye to a character. Put it this way, as Miyamura is putting out these leaks, as he only releases them one by one, as soon as I saw that it was a Gojo flashback, before I even saw what happened to Gojo, I already knew that my heart was about to shatter. But this is one long ass flashback, so sit tight. It starts off with Geto saying hi to Gojo, and Gojo just looks bewildered right now. And rightfully so, obviously, and it seems as though even Gojo doesn't understand what has happened to him. Gojo says this is awful, and Geto then obviously calls Gojo rude. It's clear that these two, despite their differences in the past, are still best friends, and it's nice to see them somewhat reunite despite these circumstances. Gojo then says that he told his students that he would die alone, and the fact that he's currently surrounded by people would prove that ideology wrong. So he says that he hopes this is all just an illusion. I think what Gojo means by this is the fact that he told his students that there is essentially nothing after death. However, currently what he's seeing would prove otherwise. And we'll actually find out later in the chapter whether this is actually an illusion or not. Geto then replies to Gojo saying who cares, that stuff doesn't even matter. But Gojo says that this all matters about his father. But I literally have no idea what he means by this, so let me know in the comments down below how you interpreted what he said here. Geto then asks Gojo how it was fighting the King of Curses. Gojo says that despite Sukuna not giving it his all, he was still tremendously strong, and to the point where Gojo knew that he did not stand a chance towards the end. And Gojo goes even further to say that he doesn't even think that he would win if Sukuna didn't have access to the 10 shadows technique, which just proves everything what I've been saying for the last month now completely correct. The amount of Sukuna haters or Gojo fanboys calling Sukuna a fraud, but even as a massive Gojo fan myself, I just never saw what was meant by these allegations. Sukuna is still the strongest with his own strength, and it would take a lot for Gojo to admit this, but he still did it. Sukuna just used his assets and knowledge to push the odds even further into his favor, which is literally just a normal thing to do for anyone who is bargaining their life. Think about it this way, if your life was on the line, you'd want to shift the odds in your favor so the odds of you dying are even slimmer. And that's literally all Sukuna did here. Megumi's body was just a contingency for if Gojo was actually much stronger than Sukuna anticipated. But after this, you really just can't call him a fraud. And if you still are, then you're just on some crazy copium. And that's just my opinion. If you disagree, then let me know in the comments down below. And whilst you're down there, make sure to subscribe as we're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of September. And if all of you subscribe, then we'll definitely be able to make it there. Anyways, I love Gojo as much as the next guy, but for once you just gotta give Sukuna some credit here. He is showing that he's a very worthy candidate of the title of King of Curses. Even Geto says that he's surprised that Gojo would admit such a thing, and obviously this is just surprising to all of us as well. It seems as though Sukuna's immense power was so overwhelming that Gojo can't ignore the fact that Sukuna is a monster, or the fact that both Gojo and Sukuna both respect each other, similar to like in real life, after you have a fight with someone, before and during, you just don't respect them at all, but afterwards, the fact that they have stepped in the ring, or just like actually fought you, you just gain a lot of respect for that person. However, Gojo tells Geto that he gave it his all, and he has trained his body, his technique, his talent, his inspiration, and his explosive power, and he threw all of these at Sukuna, yet it still wasn't enough. Gojo then states that this fight was just fun for him, to be honest, which I discussed previously. However, the reason for this excitement, despite Gojo being on the defensive throughout most of this fight, was because this was the first time since Toji that Gojo has been challenged or brought near death. Essentially, Gojo being the strongest meant that nobody even came close to him, and he never got to go all out. But he also states that he feels sorry for Sukuna since he didn't force Sukuna to give Gojo his all. However, I think this is extremely weird behaviour from Gojo, as he seems to literally just be glazing Sukuna, but maybe there is a less obvious reason for this. Maybe it links to enlightenment. Gojo knows, or at least he thinks, that he is dead here, and since he achieved enlightenment, he had already let go of these human emotions. So things like vengeance and anger all leave his body, and he is true with himself and the events which have occurred. However, it could be something else, but that is just how I interpreted why Gojo is glazing Sukuna so much right now. The next little conversation between Geto and Gojo is a little confusing, so I'm going to do my best to interpret what is meant here. Essentially, Geto says that he's jealous of Gojo for this, and Gojo then says that if Geto was here to watch, that it would never have motivated him. Honestly, I have no idea what's going on here, and I don't know what Blood is waffling about. But if you do know what was meant here, then let me know in the comment section down below. Nanami appears and states that he told Geto that he once told him about leaving the job for Gojo, which again, I just don't really understand what's going on here. But then Gojo says that he never saw Jujutsu Kaisen, which I assume is the school, as something to protect or live with. I don't know whether they talked in this place where the dead are, or whilst Geto and Nanami were still alive, but yeah, I just have no idea what's going on here. Everything is just really confusing to me, and we really don't get much clarity by the end of this chapter. Gege was clearly on the Saab while he was making this chapter, but when the official translations are out, maybe it'll make a bit more sense, but I honestly don't know. Anyways, Nanami calls Gojo a pervert, as he literally used Jujutsu sorcery as a way to satisfy himself in life, which I do admit is a bit weird. But when you are the strongest and have no goals to work towards, it is difficult to try and find satisfaction in anything else. Gojo then says that he is glad that he did not die of old age or some disease, and instead the way he died was at the hands of Jujutsu. He died at the hands of a stronger opponent, which he is ready and happy to accept. Nanami tells Gojo that the way he's talking is disgusting, as he sounds like a samurai general. But when you think about it, Gojo really doesn't experience human emotions like others, simply due to enlightenment. And some other character, who I really don't know by name, called Habera, pipes up and says that everyone was thinking this, but nobody said it out loud. So yeah, it's clear that Gojo is different, and technically we already knew this, but this is just giving us extra clarification. Nanami then states that he doesn't agree with Gojo's last moments, however at the current moment he does and can empathize with Gojo, clearly indicating that Nanami knows the experience of being on the brink of death, or even being dead, as he was put in a similar situation by Mahito. Gojo then asks Nanami about his final moments, in which Nanami replies that he once asked Mei about this before he actually experienced the last moments of his life. So essentially Mei told him to face north for a new beginning or something along those lines, or move south to remain the same way and sort of accept who you are. I can't lie, some of this half of the chapter was just complete waffle, and I think Gege was under a lot of pressure to make this a proper death for Gojo, and I reckon he just crumbled under the pressure here. But this chapter is definitely up for some potential redraw next week if the community doesn't respond correctly, but I haven't really looked at the general response, as when I wrote this script I was literally just in school. Anyways, Nanami stated that when he died, he chose south in an instant, which to me does not surprise me at all for his character. He already seemed pretty much fulfilled, and he didn't have much to change by himself, and that, thanks to his decision, allowed him to die peacefully and have a proper death. But Gojo thanks Nanami and bids all of these friends of his farewell, and apparently the chapter shows the memories that he had with each of these characters. So essentially this section is just Gojo on the brink of death, and I would assume it is some sort of intermediate realm, like purgatory, before you actually decide whether you're going to heaven or hell. This way the person can decide how they want to die, obviously the two options being facing south or north, depending on who you are and how you felt your life went. And the reason Gojo bids farewell is because he has made his decision finally. I think a lot of people will interpret this as the fact that Gojo is coming back to life, but instead I think this is just Gojo dying now and going to rest. But like I've said, I don't feel like Gege has given Gojo a proper death here. But I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I wanted more from Gege, maybe like a chapter or two, because Gojo is one of the most beloved characters, and I know Gege hates him, but you can't hate a character that much. You're gonna spare him like half a chapter for his death. Like, Gege gotta do a little bit more for this. So I'm expecting like maybe something in the future chapters, but we'll see, I guess. But then we get a double page spread of Gojo's dead body, which has been ripped in half, and half of it is just his torso, and the other panels show his still standing legs. This was just heartbreaking, I can't lie. Seeing Gojo's lifeless face literally brought a tear to my eye. Anyway, so chapter then goes back to the present day where Sukuna is stood there explaining Mahoraga's adaptation process. He then states that the process is essentially that when Mahoraga receives an attack once, then it will gradually adapt over time. However, the more attacks that Mahoraga receives, the faster it is going to adapt, and hence how it adapted to infinity a lot faster than normal, as the more times Gojo hits Sukuna with it, the more times he could adapt. Sukuna stated that he expected Mahoraga to be the role model which passes through the infinity, which essentially means that Sukuna was relying on Mahoraga to break through infinity and allow him to win this battle. Sukuna states that Mahoraga may not have been hit with infinity, but getting hit by blue or red was actually enough for Mahoraga to manipulate the cursed energy to make it so it is infinity. So if he does this, then he's essentially being hit by blue, but when he changes it, it turns into infinity. So he can adapt to that technique. Also, when Mahoraga shot this slash at Gojo, it was different to the one of Sukuna's slashes. And Mahoraga adapted this slash so it didn't just go for the cursed target, but the space and the earth as well. The next panel is Gojo, who has literally been chopped in half, which we saw earlier, but Sukuna explains that infinity doesn't matter if the entire world can be cut. And I don't know whether he literally means the entire world just got sliced in half, but I guess we will see when the chapter comes out. And Sukuna then says, "Well done Gojo, I will never forget you." So I think that Sukuna and Gojo are displaying the concept of before and during the fight you're going to chat and say I'm stronger and all that kind of lack of respect, but after a winner has been decided there is normally nothing but respect. And being so these two were literally the strongest in the series, they both kind of have to appreciate the strength of their other opponent. Sukuna then says, "Don't let me down," as we are then introduced to Kashimo, who is already flying onto the scene. The narrator states that without even a moment of sorrow about Gojo's death, the one who came in was Hajime Kashimo, the Thunder God. And I think you guys need to watch my video on Kashimo's secret curse technique because it is more relevant than ever right now. But let me just say this right now, every single thing I've said on this channel about JJK has literally just come true. I think you guys need to stop with the disrespect. Every comment that I read on my channel is just telling me that I'm wrong, but look who was right this entire time. I can't lie, I feel hella smug right now as it feels so good proving everyone wrong. But obviously it's all fun and games here. Obviously I don't think any of you guys are idiots and I respect all of you. I just have a different viewpoint about how the future of JJK will end up. And that's what makes this community so good. We can all give each other different theories and some of us may be right and some of us may be wrong. And I feel like that's why we read these mangas. Anyways, JJK is not going on break, so you can expect another spoiler video next Wednesday. And also make sure to turn on post notifications and subscribe, as when the official chapter does come out, I'm going to be making a whole nother video just to provide a bit more clarity about parts which I didn't really understand and didn't really make sense with the spoilers. But make sure to smash that like button if you did enjoy, and let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on this chapter. But with that all said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.